He rejected me for being fat, but the true alpha carried me as his queen in front of the entire pack. The moon hung low over the forest, its silver light cutting through the mist like a knife. In the heart of the kingdom, the grand celebration of the packs was underway. Fire torches flickered along the cobblestone paths, illuminating banners embroidered with the emblems of ancient wolf clans. Music floated through the night air, a haunting melody of flutes and drums that made hearts race and feet move. Leora stood at the edge of the gathering, her hands clenched in front of her. She watched as the nobles, warriors, and hunters danced, laughed, and mingled. Her heart pounded, not from excitement, but from a quiet, gnawing fear. Brrr! She had longed for this night for months, dreaming of being noticed by Caius, the prince of the dominant pack. But deep down, she knew she was different. She had been called clumsy, weak, and fat more times than she could count, and yet she had hoped that tonight she might finally be seen. Caius moved through the crowd with the grace of a born alpha. His golden eyes scanned the hall with quiet confidence, his tall frame commanding attention without effort. When his gaze met Leora's, her chest tightened. She forced herself to smile, hoping for even a flicker of acknowledgement. "You're here!" Caius said, his voice calm but with a trace of amusement. He looked her up and down, then laughed softly. "I didn't think you'd actually come." Leora's smile faltered. She tried to steady her voice. "I wanted to see the celebration and to speak with you." Caius tilted his head, his golden eyes sharp. "Speak with me? Why would I speak with someone like you?" The words hit Leora like a cold wind. The room seemed to blur around her. Whispers rose from the nearby nobles, the music fading into an unbearable silence in her mind. Her cheeks burned, not from the firelight, but from shame. I just thought," she began, but Caius cut her off. "You're too much," he said, his tone almost casual, as if delivering a verdict. "Too clumsy, too loud, too heavy. I will not waste my time." Breh.
For a moment, Leora could not breathe. The humiliation was sharp, unbearable.
The words echoed in her mind long after Caius had turned away, laughing with his companions. She wanted to disappear, to vanish into the shadows, to run far away from everyone. And yet, something inside her refused to let the night end like this. She slipped away from the crowd, moving into the forest just beyond the castle walls. The air was cooler here, scented with pine and earth. The torches from the celebration flickered faintly in the distance, like stars far away. Leora pressed her hands against her chest, trying to calm the storm of tears that threatened to spill. It was then that she heard the sound of paws in the underbrush, soft, deliberate, yet heavy with presence. Leora froze. Her heart raced, but not from fear. It was a deep, strange curiosity that drew her forward. From the shadows emerged a wolf, larger than any she had ever seen. Its coat was dark as midnight, almost blending into the night. Its eyes glowed a piercing silver, intelligent and aware. Back. Leora took a small step back. "Do," whispered. The wolf tilted its head, as if studying her. Then, in a voice that seemed to echo inside her mind, it spoke. "Do you are not like the others?" The sound made Leora stumble backward, her hand flying to her mouth. The wolf continued, calm and commanding. "Pressed. You are strong, stronger than you believe. The one who rejected you, they could not see it. But I can."
Leora's knees shook. "You..."
"You're speaking to me? I am Riven," the wolf said. "And you..." marked by fate. The path of your life does not end with humiliation. It begins anew. Leora's heart pounded. She had heard legends of Riven, the cursed alpha, the one who had not chosen a mate in centuries. Stories said he was untouchable, feared even by the bravest warriors of the pack. And now, here he was, speaking to her, choosing her, calling her by name. "Why me?" she asked, her voice barely audible.
Because your soul is unbroken. Because your spirit has fire where others see only shadows.
You have been rejected, humiliated, and yet you stand. You could become a queen in a world that will not easily accept you.
But first, you must come with me. Before she could answer, Riven lowered his massive head. With a strength that startled her, he lifted her onto his back. Leora's fingers gripped his fur, her breath catching.
She felt both fear and an inexplicable sense of safety. The world below her seemed small and fragile compared to the dark power of the Alpha who carried her.
They moved swiftly through the forest, the trees blurring past. Leora's thoughts were a whirlwind of confusion and awe. Could this be real? Could someone like Riven, someone so strong, so feared, really care for her? Bathed in moonlight, the silver glow highlighted ancient stones, arranged in a circle as if for a ritual. Paint. The air felt charged, alive with magic and power. Riven lowered her to the ground gently, and Leora stumbled slightly, clutching his fur for support. "You are safe here," he said. "For now. But danger follows you, always. The one who rejected you." They are not done. Leora swallowed, feeling a mix of fear and determination rise in her chest. Task. I don't understand. Why me? Why now? Because fate chooses those who cannot see it themselves, Riven replied, his silver eyes softening. And because the world needs you, stronger than before. But she looked at him, really looked, and saw not just a wolf or an alpha, but something more. Something lonely, wounded, and powerful all at once. Something that mirrored a part of her own heart she had hidden even from herself. Will I ever be like the others? She asked quietly. Better, Riven said. You will be yourself, and in that you will be more than anyone expects. The words settled in her heart like seeds, strange and unfamiliar, but full of promise. Leora knew she could not go back to the way things were. She could not return to the laughter of the prince who had rejected her, the whispers of the nobles, or the shadow of shame she had carried all her life. She had been chosen, marked, and now somehow she belonged to someone and to a world far larger than herself. As the first light of dawn touched the edge of the clearing, Leora felt a strange calm settle over her. For the first time in her life, she was not defined by what others thought of her. She was not rejected, not weak, not unworthy. She was seen, truly seen, and carried forward into a destiny that shimmered with both danger and possibility. Riven stepped back, his dark coat glistening with dew. Tonight was only the beginning, he said. Tomorrow, you will learn what it means to be marked. And the one who scorned you will wish they had never turned their back. Leora's heart raced. She had been humiliated, yes, but now a new fire burned within her. A fire that would not be extinguished, a power she had yet to understand. She looked up at Riven, and in his eyes she saw the first flicker of something she had never dared hope for: trust. And just like that, the night ended, not with sorrow or shame, but with the promise of transformation, of magic, and of love that dared to defy fate. The forest around them whispered in shadows, alive with secrets and old power. Leora knew the journey ahead would be difficult, but as she glanced at Riven, she realized something she had never believed before. She was ready. But deep in the distance, a low, ominous howl echoed across the hills. Not all were pleased with fate's choice. The night had shifted, and the world had changed, and the one who had rejected her was watching. The dawn was pale and soft over the forest, but Leora felt anything but calm. The clearing where Riven had brought her still hummed with a strange energy. Ancient stones circled the area like silent sentinels, whispering secrets older than any living creature. She traced her fingers over the cold surface of one stone, shivering. Riven watched her quietly, his silver eyes alert, almost as if he could read every thought that passed through her mind. His presence was commanding, yet there was a quiet patience he had reserved only for her. "You feel it, don't you?" he asked. Leora looked up at him. "Feel what?" "The energy of the land." "Of yourself. It is strong, but untrained." Biled, like the forest before dawn. A stomach twisted. I don't understand." Riven stepped closer, his gaze steady.
You are exactly who you need to be.
You have always been strong, but you have never allowed yourself to see it. Leora's heart thumped, not from fear but from the weight of his words. She had always felt invisible, a shadow in a world that valued beauty and power above all. And yet here was someone as fierce and untouchable as Riven, telling her that she mattered, that she could matter. "You are different from those who laughed at you," Riven continued. "Caius and his followers, weakness scares them. They cannot understand strength that is quiet but unyielding. You, Leora, are like the moon in the shadow of a storm, unnoticed by some, impossible to ignore when you shine." Leora blinked, trying to absorb the weight of his words. Her throat felt tight. I don't know if I can do it. The question is, will you let yourself rise? For a long moment, Leora said nothing. She wanted to run, to hide, to vanish into the trees and forget that this strange, powerful creature had seen her in a way no one else ever had. But something in the quiet determination of his silver eyes made her stay. I want to try," she whispered. Riven's lips curved into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. "Then we begin." The training was unlike anything Leora had imagined. Riven guided her through the forest, teaching her to move with purpose, to sense the world around her, and to recognize the subtle magic hidden in her own being. Each day her confidence grew, and with it the subtle power that pulsed within her chest. A warmth that spread to her hands and feet, then up her arms and into her heart. But with growth came tension. Riven was demanding. His standards were high, and his gaze unforgiving. Each misstep, each hesitation, brought a quiet reprimand that cut deeper than any insult from Caius. "You are capable, Leora," he said one evening, the silver light of the moon catching on his fur. "Doubting yourself."
I'm trying, she snapped, frustration cracking her voice. I am trying!
Riven did not flinch. "Then try harder. The world does not wait for hesitation." "And neither do I." The intensity of his words made Leora's heart ache. Part of her wanted to run, to reject him as she had been rejected before. But another part, a stronger, braver part, wanted to rise to his challenge. She wanted to prove to herself and to the world that she was more than what others had said. Days turned into weeks, and with each passing moment, Leora transformed. Her movements grew fluid and confident, her magic humming like a living thing in her veins. She learned to sense danger before it arrived, to read the subtle signs of nature and people alike. Began to see that the world was not just harsh. It was alive, full of possibilities she had never dared to imagine.
And yet, amid the lessons and growing strength, Leora could not ignore the tension that simmered between her and Riven.
There were moments when his hand would brush hers as he corrected her stance, or when his gaze lingered a heartbeat too long. Each time, her heart raced and her stomach tightened. Two, focus only on the training, but they refused to be ignored.
One night, as a storm rolled across the sky, thunder echoing through the forest, Riven called Leora to the edge of a cliff that overlooked a river glowing with moonlight.
Rain slicked her hair to her face, and her clothes clung to her. But she did not shiver. The storm seemed alive, and so did she. "Look at it," Riven said, his voice calm amid the chaos. "The river does not stop. It does not care for obstacles. It flows, it moves, it becomes stronger with every challenge." "You must be like the river." Leora swallowed hard, gripping the edge of the cliff. "I feel... do much sometimes. Then use it," Riven said softly, stepping closer. "Desperation lasts out. Let the fire inside you become your strength, not your fear. Do not let the world tell you who you are." The words struck her with the force of lightning. For the first time, Leora truly understood that strength was not about the opinions of others. It was about claiming her own power, even when the world tried to define her otherwise. But the world had not finished testing her. News of her transformation reached Caius, and with it came jealousy. He watched from a distance, seething with envy and frustration. He had rejected her, yes, but he could not bear to see her rise without him. One evening, as Leora practiced under Riven's guidance, a shadow fell across the clearing. Caius stepped forward, his golden eyes flashing with anger. "So," he said, his voice smooth but dangerous, "the rejected one thinks she can rise without me. Tell me, Leora, do you really believe you are stronger than I am?"
Leora's heart thundered, but she did not retreat. She squared her shoulders, her own silver aura beginning to shimmer in the stormlight.
"I am stronger than anyone who judges me without knowing me," she said firmly. Riven stepped beside her, his presence like a shield. "Caius, you lost that right the day you refused to see her worth." Caius's face darkened. "Enough!" Riven growled, his voice low and dangerous. "Leave, before you force me to show you what true strength looks like." Caius hesitated, his jaw tight, then finally turned and vanished into the trees, his footsteps quiet but heavy with resentment. Leora exhaled, her chest rising and falling rapidly. You could have hurt him," she said, amazed and fearful at Riven's control. "I could have," Riven replied, his voice softening as he placed a hand on her shoulder. "But I do not harm those who cannot see clearly. You, however, you must learn to fight without fear." Leora nodded, though her mind was still racing. She realized that the world she had entered was dangerous, full of political tension and magical power that could overwhelm the unprepared. But she also knew something else. She had allies, and she had the courage to face the trials ahead. Days later, during another training session in the heart of the forest, Leora's magic surged unexpectedly. A small flame sparked in her palm, growing until it illuminated the clearing like a torch. Riven watched, eyes wide with something she could not quite name. Pride, wonder, maybe even awe. "You did that," he said, voice low, reverent. "You controlled it. You are ready for more than you know." Leora's heart lifted, a sense of accomplishment blooming inside her. I think I can do anything now," she whispered, disbelief and hope mingling in her voice. Riven's expression softened, a rare vulnerability showing in the silver depths of his eyes. "Not just anything," he said. "The impossible. Because what you have is not just magic, it is heart, courage, and unbroken spirit. And that is what makes a queen." Leora's breath caught. Queen. The word felt strange on her tongue, but also right. For the first time, she saw herself not as someone weak, humiliated, or unworthy, but as someone who could rise above every doubt, every judgment, every cruel word. Yet even in the midst of triumph, Leora felt the weight of the unseen. Tyus had not forgotten her, and neither had the world. She could feel the eyes of others, jealous, fearful, or curious, watching, waiting for a mistake. She knew that her journey was far from over. One evening, as the sky bled red and gold with the setting sun, Riven and Leora stood atop a hill overlooking the forest. The wind whipped her hair around her face, and she felt alive in a way she had never imagined. "You are ready," Riven said, his voice both tender and commanding. "But know this, your path will not be easy. Those who scorned you will come, and they will try to test everything you have learned."
"You must not falter!" Leora nodded, her heart steady.
Grasps. She had faced humiliation, fear, and doubt, and survived. She had discovered a power she never knew existed and a bond with Riven that was unbreakable.
"And I will not be alone," she said, her voice firm. "No," Riven agreed, his silver eyes meeting hers.
"You will never be alone again." But far in the distance, hidden among the dark trees, a pair of golden eyes glinted with anger and envy.
Caius watched, plotting, waiting for the moment when he could strike.
The storm of jealousy and rivalry was not over. It had only begun. And for Leora, the true test of courage, power, and heart was only just beginning. The forest felt heavier than usual, thick with the scent of rain and earth. Leora moved carefully along the winding path, her senses alert. The lessons with Riven had sharpened her abilities, but the warnings he had given her lingered like a shadow. Caius would not forget her, and the world was watching.
Riven walked silently beside her, a silent shadow of strength and protection. His silver eyes scanned the trees, alert to every movement, every whisper of the wind. The bond between them had grown stronger with each passing day, unspoken but undeniable. Leora felt it in the way he watched her, in the quiet guidance he offered, in the protective tilt of his stance when danger was near.
"You feel it too, don't you?" he asked softly, breaking the silence.
"Feel what?" Leora asked, her voice steady despite the storm of thoughts in her mind.
"The tension," Riven said, his gaze sharp. "The envy, the fear, the anger." "It is coming for you. And soon." Leora clenched her fists. She had expected Caius to return, but hearing it confirmed sent a shiver down her spine. Past. She was no longer the timid girl he had humiliated, but she was still vulnerable.
"I'm ready,"
she said firmly.
"I won't let him control me again." Riven gave a slight nod. "It is not enough to be ready."
"You must be vigilant, and you must trust yourself.
more than anyone else.
The forest opened into a small glade, moonlight spilling through the trees and illuminating the grass like silver.
Riven gestured for her to sit, and she obeyed, curiosity and anxiety mingling in her chest.
You have grown strong, Riven said, his voice almost gentle, though every word carried weight. But strength alone is not enough. You must understand the heart that guides it. Power without purpose is dangerous. Pit. Leora looked at him, feeling the truth in his words. She had always been driven by fear and the desire to be accepted. Now she realized she needed to lead with courage, with compassion, and with her own voice. I understand, she said quietly. I want to do more than just survive. I want to protect, to help, to rise. Riven's eyes softened, and for a moment the harshness of the alpha faded, leaving only the quiet vulnerability beneath.
Then you are ready to face the trials ahead, he said. But before Leora could respond, the wind shifted.
A rustle of leaves, almost imperceptible, set her nerves on edge. Her hands tingled with the magic she had been learning to control, and she felt Riven tense beside her.
Kaya stepped from the shadows, his golden eyes flashing with anger. So, this is where you hide, little Leora, he said, his voice smooth but dripping with venom. Growing stronger under the guidance of the cursed wolf. Do you think you can rise without me? Leora stood, heart pounding, her silver aura flickering in response to her emotions. I do not need you, Caius, she said, her voice steady. You do not define me.
Never did and never will. Riven stepped forward, his massive frame blocking Caius. You will leave, Prince, he said, voice low and dangerous, before I show you the meaning of power and restraint.
Enough, Leora interrupted, her own aura flaring in response to the confrontation. This ends tonight.
I will not fight you for recognition. I will fight to protect myself.
If you cannot respect that, leave. Caius hesitated, and for the first time, Leora noticed the uncertainty behind his golden gaze. But pride and envy were stronger than reason, and he stepped closer, a shadow of menace in his stance. Riven's silver eyes glimmered with warning. You cannot touch her, he said, his tone absolute. She is marked by fate. You have no right here. Caius froze, then slowly backed away, his lips curling into a bitter smile.
This is not over, Leora.
One day you will see what you could have had.
And you will regret it.
Leora's chest tightened, but she did not waver. She had faced humiliation before, and she had survived. Now she was rising, and no one, neither Caius nor the shadows of her past, would take that from her. When he disappeared into the trees, Leora sank to her knees, exhausted but resolute. Riven knelt beside her, his presence steadying her. Are you hurt? He asked, concern softening the edge of his voice. Desk. No, she said, breathing deeply.
I've never felt more alive. Riven's hand rested lightly on her shoulder.
Good. Then remember this feeling.
It will guide you when the trials ahead grow heavier, and they will grow heavier.
Days passed, and Leora continued her training, but the tension between her and Riven deepened. There were moments when the distance between them felt unbearable, her heart longing for closeness, and yet their bond restrained by unspoken rules of trust and restraint. She found herself studying him in quiet moments, noticing the way his muscles tensed when danger approached. The way his gaze softened when he thought she wasn't watching, and the way his presence made her feel both protected and challenged. One evening they returned to the cliff overlooking the river, the stormlight painting the sky in violent shades of orange and red. Leora's magic had grown stronger, her control sharper. She lifted her hands and summoned a small flame, letting it dance between her palms. "You've come far," Riven said, watching with a mixture of pride and admiration. "But your heart must be even stronger than your power. Strength is nothing without purpose, without compassion."
Leora's lips pressed into a thin line. "I want to be ready for anything," she said quietly.
"For him, for the world, for you." Riven's eyes softened, and for a moment his mask of the untouchable alpha slipped. "You already are," he said. "You just do not know it." Before she could respond, a sudden rustling in the trees made them both tense. Shadows shifted, and from the darkness a group of rival wolves emerged. They were envious of Riven's power, of Leora's rising strength, and of the bond that was forming between them. Leora felt fear spike through her, but she also felt her power surge. Bastion. The silver aura around her intensified, reflecting her determination. Riven stepped forward, his massive form shielding her from the first wave of attack. "Stand behind me," he commanded. But Leora did not move. Instead, she focused, her hands glowing with energy, and she met the attackers head-on. Her magic surged, forcing the wolves to hesitate, giving Riven the opening he needed. Together they moved as one, her power and his strength, a force no enemy could easily challenge. After the battle, Leora sank to the ground, exhausted but exhilarated. Riven knelt beside her, his gaze unreadable, but full of pride.
"You fought well," he said softly.
But not just with power, but with heart. That, is what makes a true queen.
Leora smiled faintly, feeling the truth of his words in her chest.
She had grown stronger, yes, but it was not just the magic or the training. It was the courage to face fear, to rise above humiliation, and to claim her own worth. But even in the quiet after victory, Leora sensed a shadow lurking. Caius had not forgotten her, and the whispers of the packs carried rumors of dark plots and curses. She knew the path ahead would test not just her power, but her heart, her trust, and the bond she shared with Riven. That night, as the moon rose high and bathed the forest in silver light, Riven led her to a hidden glade filled with ancient runes.
"This place has been waiting for you,"
he said.
"Here, you will learn the final part of your strength, the part that will bind your heart, your mind, and your magic together. Without it, you are strong, but not unbreakable." Leora felt a shiver run through her. The final test. She had survived humiliation, jealousy, and doubt. But this was something else.
"Something greater? Are you ready?" Riven asked, his silver eyes locked on hers.
Leora nodded, her heart steady despite the fear.
"I am ready."
Riven placed a hand on her forehead, and she felt a surge of energy unlike anything before. It flowed through her, weaving with her magic, her courage, and her heart. Images flashed before her eyes, visions of battles, trials, triumphs, and losses. She felt every emotion, every fear, every hope. And then a voice, Caius's voice, echoed in the distance, taunting, warning, threatening. "You cannot rise without me, Leora. You belong to me." But Leora shook her head, feeling the power within her solidify. "I belong to myself," she whispered. The energy around her pulsed, bright and unyielding. Riven's presence steadied her, guiding her through the surge. When it finally faded, Leora opened her eyes, stronger, more certain, and ready for whatever came next.
Riven smiled, a rare, tender smile. You are no longer the one they rejected, he said.
You are the one they will remember.
And in that moment, Leora understood. The journey was far from over, but she had taken the first step toward becoming a queen, not just in title, but in spirit. From the shadows, a pair of golden eyes glimmered, and Leora knew Caius was still watching, still plotting. The true battle for power, heart, and destiny was only just beginning.
The night sky was heavy with clouds, the moon hidden behind a veil of silver mist. The forest seemed to hold its breath, as if it knew the moment had come. Leora stood at the edge of the cliff, the wind whipping through her hair, her silver aura glowing softly around her. Beside her, Riven's massive form was a silent pillar of strength, his eyes scanning the shadows below. Bye.
Tonight was not just another training session. Tonight, the entire pack would gather to witness a moment that would decide the course of destiny. The whispers of the elders had reached every corner of the kingdom. The one who had been rejected, humiliated, and underestimated would rise, and she would rise with Riven.
Leora's heart pounded, but it was no longer fear. It was anticipation, determination, and a quiet courage that had taken months to cultivate. She had learned to control her magic, to trust her instincts, and to believe in her own worth. But the ultimate test awaited, and she could not ignore the tension in the forest. "They're coming," Riven murmured, his voice low but steady. "Caius is here, and he does not come alone." From the tree line, golden eyes glimmered, followed by the shadowed forms of warriors loyal to Caius.
A prince himself stepped forward, his posture rigid with pride and anger. "So, the rejected one stands before me," he said, voice smooth but laced with threat. "You think you are strong enough to defy me?" Leora straightened, her aura flaring brighter in response. "I do not seek your approval, Caius," she said, her voice calm but unwavering. "I am not yours to define. I am my own, and I stand with those who honor me, not those who would humiliate me." Caius's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing. "You could have been mine, but you chose." He gestured toward Riven. "A cursed alpha, a shadow of power." "You think this bond will protect you?" Riven stepped forward, a low growl rumbling in his chest. "She is stronger than you will ever understand." Breath. "And she is under my protection. Step any closer, and you will see what true strength means." Palpable. Wolves from both packs circled at a distance, their eyes reflecting the flickering torchlight. The air vibrated with magic and anticipation as though the forest itself were holding its breath.
But Leora did not waver.
No!
She had faced humiliation, doubt, and jealousy. She had risen. And now it was time to claim what she had earned.
Enough words, she said, lifting her hands.
Her magic shimmered a silver flame that danced along her skin, illuminating the cliff and the surrounding forest. This ends tonight. Not with anger, not with fear, but with truth. Riven moved to her side, and together they stepped forward, their combined presence radiating power and unity. The onlookers gasped, the weight of their aura undeniable. Even the elders who had seen centuries of pack history murmured in astonishment. Caius's eyes flickered with frustration.
You would dare? Stop, Leora said, her voice carrying over the clearing.
"I do not fight to hurt. I fight to rise." And if you cannot accept that, then step aside. The wind rose suddenly, sweeping through the trees as if the forest itself approved of her words. Riven's silver eyes softened as he glanced at Leora. You are ready, he said quietly.
Now show them who you are. Leora felt a surge of confidence. Her magic flared not just as power, but as a reflection of her heart.
Ronan. She stepped forward, the glow surrounding her growing, and with a firm breath, she lifted herself onto Riven's back. The crowd fell silent. The cursed Alpha, feared by all, carried the woman who had once been mocked and humiliated.
Every eye followed them as they moved to the center of the clearing, their presence impossible to ignore.
You see her now, Riven said, his voice carrying over the pack. She is not what you thought. She is strong. She is brave. And she is no one's to demean or judge. Leora felt her chest rise with pride. This was not about revenge. This was about acknowledgement, not of her past, but of her true self. She had been rejected, yes, but she had risen. And she was claiming her place in the world. Caius stepped forward, his golden eyes flashing with anger and envy. You cannot control me, Leora said firmly, cutting him off. I am my own. I have never belonged to anyone but myself. Riven lowered his head, brushing against her lightly, a silent gesture of unity and trust. Together, they turned toward the assembled packs. Let it be known, Riven said, his voice strong and commanding, that this woman, Leora, is my equal, my partner, and my queen. Not by decree of others, but by her courage, strength, and heart. All who witness this shall respect her as such. A hush fell over the clearing. Wolves shifted, whispers spreading like wildfire. The elders exchanged glances, impressed by her presence and her power. Even those who had doubted her could not ignore the undeniable truth. She had risen, and she had done so with grace, strength, and integrity. Caius's jaw tightened, his golden eyes cold. He had lost, not to her magic, not to Riven, but to the undeniable truth of her worth. And in that moment, he realized the depth of his mistake. But Leora did not gloat! She felt a quiet strength, a calm clarity. She had faced her trials, her humiliation, her fear, and she had overcome them. Her gaze met Riven's, and in his eyes she saw pride, admiration, and something deeper. Trust and bond that went beyond words. The crowd erupted into cheers, howls of approval echoing through the forest. Leora's heart swelled as she stepped down from Riven's back, standing tall beside him. The aura of their unity radiated outward, a force of power, courage, and love. In that moment, Leora understood the true meaning of strength. It was not the magic she wielded, nor the protection of a powerful alpha. Race to stand, the resilience to rise, and the belief in herself that no one could take away.
Riven gently took her hand, lifting it high.
Together, he said, we face the world, stronger, united, and unbroken. Leora smiled, her heart light and steady. Together, she echoed. Even from the shadows, she sensed Caius retreating, his pride wounded, his jealousy tempered by the undeniable truth. But he would no longer have power over her. She had claimed her destiny, and nothing could undo it. The moon finally broke through the clouds, casting silver light over the clearing. The forest seemed to breathe with them, alive and approving. Leora and Riven stood together not just as alpha and mate, but as equals, partners, and allies in a world that would test them endlessly. You have done well, Riven said softly, his hand brushing against hers. But know this, the world will continue to challenge you. Darkness will come, and not all will accept your rise. I am Ray, Leora said firmly. I have faced fear, doubt, and rejection. Riven's eyes softened. And I will face it with you. The wind carried the echoes of the pack's howls, a chorus of acceptance, respect, and unity. Leora knew that this night marked not an end, but a beginning. She had risen from humiliation to power, from doubt to confidence, from rejection to love and trust. And in the quiet of the moonlit forest, she understood something that no one had ever told her before. Her worth was not measured by the opinions of others. It was forged in courage, tempered in trials, and illuminated by the truth of her heart. Together, Leora and Riven turned toward the horizon, ready for whatever challenges awaited. The forest stretched endlessly before them, full of shadows and light, danger and beauty. But they faced it united, and for the first time in her life, Leora felt truly free. The moon shone brighter, as if blessing their union, and somewhere in the distance the first notes of a new dawn whispered of hope, transformation, and love that could not be broken. The night had ended, not with sorrow but with triumph. Leora had claimed her place in the world, not as a victim but as a queen, strong, wise, and unyielding. And as she stood beside Riven, the forest alive around them, she knew that no force, no shadow, and no doubt could ever take that from her.